Well, Jim, we wanted to get together today to talk about a concept that I've heard you refer to a number of times in discussions, and you've certainly tried to explain to me. It's a concept that you have developed or have certainly taken under your own wing that you call the ladder of success. And when I hear those words, I certainly have kind of a picture in my own mind, but this really means a lot to you. And I was wondering, can you take us back to the start? What is the ladder of success, and how did you come to embrace it as thoroughly and as deeply as you do?
Well, I think the way that the term ladder of success come about was maybe as I analyzed my start in life. I was from a small town in Western Virginia that we were what you might call tenement farmers. We had a very small plot of land that we rented, and we farmed it. My father worked at the VA as an occupational therapist, and my mother had to work part-time at a restaurant at a truck stop in order to make ends meet. And of course, as a young boy, I worked in the fields helping others get a pay for which I received small amounts of money. And I thought I needed to do something better, something that was more consistent. So I devised an idea when I was 14 years old to try to get a job. And the idea to get a job was to take any job that I could get, and pay was not a consideration on my part. My mother had taught me that you shouldn't pursue money, you should pursue work, and money would come. And I guess that's what I was doing. So I approached a fellow that had a small grocery store with a service station, just sold groceries in a service station, really. And I told him that I would work for $1 a day. I would work 12 hours a day, which is what he was open, and I would work 7 days a week. I suspect he thought I was crazy, but after some thought he agreed to it because it was certainly a lot less money than he could hire anyone else for. But what I learned at 14 years old was I learned how to operate a grocery store, how to operate a service station, how to handle cash, how to handle a cash register. I met a lot of people, and it started me on my way, and it gave me the confidence to pursue my next job, which just happened to be at $2 a day at a place called Hale's Truck Stop in Elliston, Virginia, where I washed dishes, changed truck tires, and generally worked around there for about 12 hours a day for $2 a day. And from there, things continued to grow until this point in my life. I have been climbing what I now call the ladder of success. And it's only because I got on that first rung of that ladder. If you don't have a job, if you don't have a career, there's only one way to get to it, and that's to get started on it by getting your first job, identifying your career, and having the ability to educate yourself so that you'll be able to move upward in that career, or take a job, apprentice programs, whatever you can get into. Money is not going to be your first objective. Your first objective is to get your first job, and from there you can climb. And that's how the ladder of success come into being in my mind, and that's exactly what it is. And I'm still climbing today. I'm not sure where I'm going from this point, but I'm still climbing. There's room to go up.
And the first thing as I hear this very detailed description of the ladder of success is how different it may have been in the 50s when this was occurring for you, that you had 3 stations on the TV, you had a couple of stations on the radio, and that was pretty much it for outside entertainment or distractions. And today, with 300 cable channel universe and endless music options and video game options and everything from TV to media to magazines to internet to websites to surfing to chat to everything else, there are so many ways that one can distract oneself, and there is the sort of immediate gratification issue that in so many regards our life is sort of push-button remote control, that if you push this you get immediate gratification, there's sensory gratification. But with the ladder of success is sort of the inverse of that. It requires patience. It requires delayed gratification. It requires patiently building and working towards something diligently over a period of time. Do you think it's different for today's young person to try to model themselves, if they try to follow the Jim Morris model of the ladder of success? Or what can you tell me about the different worlds in which the ladder of success may be pursued?
I think what you described are distractions. I'd like to correct one point. There were no television stations available to us at that time. And there were television stations in America, but not in our area, and we did not have a television. So, and drugs were not the problem in my period of growing up that they are today. And those are two major distractions to young people today. The mobility that young people have is another distraction. I did not have an automobile to contend with. I was too young to drive at that time, but none of the kids had automobiles at that time. So we were able to focus. What I would say to a young person today, though, is that these distractions have to be put in their proper place for you, and you have to focus on those things that you're going to need later in life. You're being able to recall all the television shows of your youth are not going to help you when you're 25 years old and lo and behold you've got a child or two that you really didn't plan for very well and you have no job. You know, at that point in your life you need to man up, woman up, and be standing there to take care of your responsibilities that you will be creating by that time in your life.
What do you think about what I said about, or the issue of the instant gratification? We're in an instant gratification society. We're not accustomed to building, saving, patience is not exactly at a premium right now. You get your paycheck, you spend it on what you have to for rent and everything else, or mortgage or car payment, and then after that, you buy stuff. you buy stuff. This isn't exactly a culture that has invested a lot in teaching people to save for the future, to understand what the future is and how to prepare for it. But the ladder of success is based on an understanding that the future, a positive future for yourself, can only be built if you approach it with patience and care and whittle away at improving yourself. What can you tell me about your views on the delayed gratification versus instant gratification society?
Well, it's certainly another distraction for young people today because of the instant gratification, and so many people are urging them to have expectations that are unrealistic. And that's one of the reasons that I like the description of a ladder of success. That implies that there are rungs on that ladder that you have to climb. Those people who try to jump too far, too high to grab a rung on the ladder, or to try to reach out for something they aren't prepared for, generally fail. And when you fail, it creates an opportunity to learn, but it's also very difficult to get up and start back up the ladder in the methodical process that will get you to the top of a ladder. I think that instant gratification is something that people have to find a way to put aside in their minds and understand that those things that have stay power and have validity in their lives, all of them are going to take some time to get. Education is that way. You don't get educated in 6 months. You get educated in many years of study. And we're trying to create instant gratification in education by making people feel good about themselves at every turn, but a little bit of effort is taken away when people feel like that it's so easy for them to get the proper grades in these things. We need to make people work for these things, and they need to apply themselves.
There was an interesting study that came out not long ago that showed the problem with one of the problems with American education is that 80%, I think it was, of American high school seniors believed they were competent in basic science, when in fact only 20% were. And then when they gave the same test to Taiwanese students, only 20% felt that they were competent in high school science at their grade level, when it turned out that 80% were. And it's because they push themselves so hard that they are taught not to have these exceedingly high expectations of their own abilities. And yet now we are ranked, America is ranked somewhere between dead last and second or third from last in 33 nations in terms of math and science. So there's no getting around the fact that, you know, this delayed gratification and the methodical ladder of success in education, we're paying a very high price for this. But something that came to mind when you were describing this and jumping to grab a rung would apply to sports. I imagined a basketball kid who wants to learn to play basketball trying to dunk before he's ready, before he knows how to do it. And the superstars that we see on TV did not just come out of nowhere. Every move they've learned came with months and months of practice and honing and perfection of those skills. And it sounds like there's a corollary, there's a relationship there between the skills that one learns to become a professional athlete and the skills that result from the ladder of success.
John, a lot of people think that education or being able to dunk a basketball becomes an end in itself. A lot of people, when they are achieving their education, they feel like that's an end in itself. It's not. Education is just a part of what you're going to be. Education in itself doesn't get you a job, it doesn't get you a paycheck. What you have to do is be prepared to take that education and use it in some productive way, whether it be teaching, whether it be working in a factory, whatever it is. And I think too often, as parents and as a society, we congratulate people on their education as opposed to what they're able to do with that education. The ladder of success involves you maybe getting an education, but being willing to take that education and get on a ladder and climb with it, get your first job, etc. Dunking a basketball is that way. That's only a mere small part of what being an athlete is and playing basketball in that particular analogy. Tall people who can jump high can dunk a basketball. That does not mean that they're good enough basketball players to help their team win a game. That comes with teamwork and a whole lot of other aspects of life other than being tall and being able to jump, just as one example.
And to bring this all back to the point of Entitlements Destroy Lives, your website, which I'm honored to be helping you to create, the ladder of success directly relates to Entitlements Destroy Lives in the following way. That someone, a young girl, 22, single mother, 1 or 2 kids, everything is being provided to her. Her house, her housing, her food, her health care, her living expenses, maybe some mild job training. But unless she has a vision of the ladder of success, I don't know how far she's going to be able to get. What would you say to that young girl?
I would say that what you've described is distractions. When someone is providing you with a place to live, when someone is providing you with a car to drive, when someone is providing you with food on the table, education for your children, those are not things that you've obtained yourself. That's not things from the ladder of success. Those are things that cause you not to climb the ladder of success, not to even want to get on the ladder of success. You tend to atrophy. You tend to have your drive, is another word for it, will be diminished. And we have at times talked about another analogy that's much more base, and that's the analogy that if someone takes antibiotics over a long period of time, their immune system in their body lays down and they can no longer have the defense necessary to fight off infections. It's a biological fact that the things that a human is capable of doing, when they don't do them, they atrophy and they no longer have the, in some cases, the physical will, in other cases, the biological activity in their body to be able to do those things. And entitlements are the antibiotics that cause people to lose their initiative. And when they lose their initiative, when they're not on a ladder of success, when they're sitting on the sideline waiting for something, there is absolutely no way to have complete life satisfaction.
Then what would you say to the person who is on the entitlements who says, Jim, you know, I won't be here forever. I just need a hand up. That's what my caseworker tells me. I just need a temporary hand up. And yeah, I may be, spinning my wheels right now, but I'm comfortable. I'm taking care of my kids. I'm taking care of this. Why should I sacrifice everything I have, the comfort I have right now, and the surety I have that my rent is paid, my utilities are paid, my food is paid, my health care is paid? Why should I do anything that will in any way take any of that away in order to get on this thing that you call the ladder of success? I mean, I have a hard time seeing after, next month. What are we talking about here? Why should I give up any of this for some possible future that I don't know if it is ever going to exist for myself?
Because, generally speaking, I think that your plight on an entitlement lifestyle is going to diminish over time as opposed to get better. It's almost impossible for a society to give entitlements to the point that they can have people keep up with the modern fast lifestyle that people are living. So your lifestyle is going to diminish. The only way you have a progressive lifestyle, a lifestyle that allows you to look to more in the future, to provide for your family better in the future, and for you to have independence and enjoyment, is if you get on the ladder of success, whatever field you choose, and climb, because there is a certain amount of reward every day that you're on that ladder of success, knowing that you're providing for yourself and your children to the best of your abilities. Now, if a person is on entitlements, and if they feel like I'm saying you should go in and say, I don't want any more entitlements, I'm through, and then go out and look for a job, I'm not sure that I would advise you to do it that way. I would advise you that every day you're on entitlements, be trying to find a way to get on that ladder of success, whether you're out job hunting, whether you're obtaining more education that might help you get on that ladder. Whatever you do, every day make sure you do something that moves you towards independence.
And how would you react to somebody who says, well, this all sounds great from maybe a different time in America, but today we live in a time of fast success, starting from zero, and finding a way, whatever the ethics are, of getting to a point where you've got the riches, you've got the flash, you've got the toys to show off. There was a thing that came out not long ago, maybe a few years ago. They were talking to some corporate recruiters, and they said that they were asking them, what is the difference between recruiting young college graduates today versus a few years ago? And they said the biggest difference is that today, college graduates are recruiting people for work. They have this attitude that everyone deserves a trophy for showing up. Everyone deserves something for just breathing, for just being alive. And that everyone should be celebrated for that. And that celebrating anyone for anything else it's not right. And then you see the TV shows and the movies and stuff where someone starts at zero and they come up with an idea, they come up with a song, and they go from zero to riches overnight. I mean, how do you combat that mentality that is sort of drilled in a little bit, that it seems to clash with the ladder of success? It seems to want to short circuit the ladder of success.
Well, what you're doing is you're pointing out some extremes. And in a poem, Desiderata, it says there will always be greater and lesser than yourself. And it's going to be that way if you're Warren Buffett. There's someone richer than Warren Buffett, believe it or not. And there's always going to be someone that is poorer than the poorest person that you name. So don't look at the extremes. Look at yourself and improve yourself every day. Move yourself forward. You don't have a clue at this point in your life, and neither do I, what my upper limits are or what your upper limits are. We just know, or I know,
the top rung of the ladder.
Well, the top rung of the ladder, we don't know where that is.
Right.
We can keep climbing as long as we have the energy and the motivation and the initiative to climb. And each rung on that ladder brings a reward, whether you're competing against Warren Buffett or whether you're competing against me or whether you're just competing against yourself. Each rung on that ladder is a form of success. I can point to person after person who has started with nothing and advanced to great riches, but I don't find comfort necessarily in that. What I find comfort in is the average Joe like myself who started out a farm boy and has managed to support myself and my family for my entire life and has been excited about each rung that I've found on my ladder of success.
And you also discussed as a role model for yourself the Peterson empire of automotive magazines.
That's right.
He started off with, I mean, can you tell us that story? Because this is a tribute to the ladder of success.
He was born near L.A. His family moved a little bit out into the desert of California, just east of L.A., and his mother passed away when he was 10 years old. He became a high school dropout. He took his first job for a quarter an hour, and he started up the ladder of success, and it was a slow climb, but ultimately he ended up starting magazines. He had some failures on the way. When he died, his estate was $700 million. There's a whole lot in between that I don't have time to tell.
And this is Hot Rod Magazine and Motor Trend
Right,
Magazine.
Motor Trend Magazine is one of the most famous, but actually the magazine's number in the teens that he started, and there's an automotive museum in L.A. right now that is funded by his estate. Here's a man who started out on the bottom rung of the ladder and continued to climb every day of his life, with his mother passing away when he was young, with him quitting high school and starting out working.
And there was something also that to those who are listening to this who may be discouraged and not certain that the ladder of success can still bring what it used to bring. There was a thing not long ago, and you can search this out on the internet, where a college professor asked students in his different classes to pick a country that they would wish to be born in, but the catch was is that any country that they pick, they have to agree to be born at the bottom of society economically, and to pick a country better than America that would give them more opportunity to rise more quickly than America. And I don't think that any of the students, or more than a handful, even had an argument that America is still the land of the greatest opportunity in the world for a person with initiative.
America is a land of unlimited opportunity. There are more challenges today, there are more distractions today, but I think humans have evolved some. And I think that humans today are equipped with what's necessary to deal with those challenges, to deal with the distractions, and to find a place where they can get on the ladder of success, their personal ladder of success, and it will be theirs personally. No other human will have that ladder, and climb. And that's all it takes. You don't know what you can accomplish in America until you have done that.
Before we wrap up, so much of what we've talked about have been your seeking employment and getting employment and rising through the ladder of success. But you've been an entrepreneur, and America is the land of entrepreneurship. And I was wondering if you could comment, because maybe the person who is on entitlements, maybe employment is the best option for now to wean themselves off of entitlements, and, as we say on the website, to liberate themselves, to liberate their lives from the entanglement of entitlements. But entrepreneurship is what made America great as well, aside from the freedoms. And I was wondering if you could speak for a moment on the prospect of a person, and historically of people who have come from nowhere with nothing, and they came up with an idea for a proverbial better mousetrap, and they went from rags to riches, literally. And I was wondering if you could comment on sort of an alternative, maybe, ladder of success that's not employment-based, but that's entrepreneurship-based.
Well, it's always work-based.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And the secret is very simple to starting a business. Identify a need that exists in society, whatever it can be. It can be a very minor thing, like someone identifying that a neighborhood doesn't have anyone picking up its trash. They don't have a place to set their cans out. They have to take it to a recycling center. And someone decides that, okay, I've got a truck, maybe I could pick up those trash cans and haul them to the recycling center for these people for a fee. Just identify a need. That was a very small type need. But identify a need and then figure out a way that you can solve that need. Doesn't always require a lot of money. I've started several businesses in my life. Some of them took more money than others to start. Some of them took very little money to start. And what you do is you identify the need, and then you go about trying to fulfill that need that's in society. It can be in any arena of society. It can be a very complex thing. You might invent something. Someone invented the bobby pin. Someone invented the safety pin. Someone invented digital images being taken and transmitted by a cellular link 10 years before cell phone companies figured out how to do it. That person was me, and I'm not a genius. But you just have to identify a need.
In the video that's under Stories of Liberation, notable public figures, one of the things that, falling in line with what you just said, when Steve Jobs gave the commencement at Stanford, he made an allusion to something that your life will never be the same when you realize that the person sitting next to you is no smarter than you are. The people who changed the world are no smarter than you are. They just harnessed and directed their resources in a different way. And it seems to me that, coming back down to the most basic level, that the entitlements mentality is the inverse of the ladder of success mentality. They can't coexist in the same person at the same time. It's literally either one or the other. I mean, does that seem that way to you? That's
true. That's true. Now, maybe for a moment, while you're escaping entitlements, they can exist together. But if entitlements have a hold on you, you will never experience the growth that you will experience on the ladder of success. It's impossible when you're complacent, when you feel like you have something to lose. If you try to climb the ladder of success, it's impossible to escape that unless you really put a lot of effort into it.
Then let me ask you to paint a picture, perhaps in the mind of someone who has been on entitlements not only throughout their life, but they have never seen a person who's been on the ladder of success. They have never seen someone who is not on entitlements. That entitlements are a way of life, generation through generation. Paint a picture. If they don't understand what it means to stand on their own 2 feet and have their own source of income, and they're not dependent on others to provide them with the bare sustenance of what they need to survive, paint a picture of what it means to look at yourself in the mirror and not be on entitlements.
Well, it's complete liberation. You know that you're not dependent on anyone to make sure that you have food, to make sure that you have shelter or any of the transportation or any of those things. It's the complete exhilaration of complete liberation that you feel. I want to point out one thing that as a young man I used to do, because I had a little bit of a wise guy in me. And people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up, Jim?" And I would say, "King of the universe." And people thought that I was arrogant, maybe this, that, or the other. So they would ask me, "Well, why would you say that? You know that's impossible." And I would say, "No, if I set my goal for street sweeper, I might make garbage collector. But if I set my goal for king of the universe, then I've got to be reaching the rest of my life." And that's the important thing. If you're reaching, you can grab the next rung. If you're complacent and never raise your arms to reach, or never motivate yourself to take that first step, then you won't achieve a lot in your lifetime, and you won't achieve happiness. The exhilaration of liberation is such a high that it will make any narcotics that any young person has ever tried pale in comparison when they experience the exhilaration of success in their life.
Maybe we could close by your commenting on the story of Leo Burnett, who was for young people who don't know Leo Burnett, he's one of the advertising greats of the world. Leo Burnett is consistently in one of the top 5 slots of the biggest advertising agencies. And the agency got started in the late 20s and 30s in the Great Depression when Leo Burnett, a young copywriter, decided he was going to form an advertising agency. And the people around him thought he was so crazy that they said that you'll be selling apples by the end of the year because it's never going to work. And he ended up becoming a giant success. And on every conference table, in every Leo Burnett office, everywhere in the world, every day, there's a fresh basket of apples in the center of the conference table. And his motto, which is written on the doors of every Leo Burnett office, is always reach for the stars. You might not quite pull one down, but you won't end up with a fistful of dirt either. I was wondering if you could comment on just that story and that particular phrase, that adage of his.
Well, first off, I'm impressed by it, and I'm embarrassed to say, John, that I did not know that story, but I'm impressed with it. But I'm going to tell you one very similar. There was a fellow named Cray invented the fastest computer in the world. This was in the 60s and 70s. He constantly built the fastest computer in the world. And every year, when summer was over, he would destroy his boat that he had that year, because he knew that every year required that you build a new boat to be better than the one you had last year. And every time he built a computer, it was the fastest in the world. The Cray computers, people should read about it. It's a wonderful story. Very similar. These are average people. All of us have talents that we have yet to discover. And young people who are on entitlements, older people who are on entitlements, have a whole basket of talents and knowledge that they haven't used. They need to break it out and use it. We only get this life once, and we need to live it to its fullest, not live it to its minimalist, which is what entitlements are. And the entitlement entanglement is worse than any trap I know of, because it just keeps you there forever. And I can't think of anything worse than for humanity. And if the people that are listening to me can just make one step in the right direction, they'll start to feel the exhilaration. And I know they won't start climbing, but they've got to take that first step.
Thanks, Jim.